Right. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something pretty huge, right? School system,
Yeah, definitely. Something we've all experienced in one way or another.
for sure. And you sent over some really interesting material. So the mission today really is just to kind of dig into that,
Yeah.
pull out the main insights.
Because again, what actually makes it a system? That's what we want to unpack.
Okay, so yeah, that word system, that tells us a lot from the get-go, doesn't it? It's not just individual schools operating independently.
Precisely. It's interconnected. Think of it maybe like an engine.
An engine. Okay. How so?
Well, you got different parts of the intake, combustion, exhaust. They all work together. You change one thing.
And it affects the whole performance, yeah.
Right. And the school system is similar. You've got curriculum, teacher training, how it's funded, assessments. It's all linked up.
So let's take one of those. Curriculum. That seems like a good example. If there's a big push, say, towards STEM subjects, what kind of ripples does that send through the engine?
Okay, yeah, good one. So a big STEM push. Well, first off, you probably need changes in how teachers are prepared.
Right. They need that expertise.
Exactly. Then maybe resource allocation shifts. More money for, labs, tech, STEM stuff.
Uh-huh.
And that, down the line, shapes the student experience. What courses they take, maybe even their career ideas.
It makes total sense. It's not just adding a science book. It touches, well, almost everything.
It really does.
So thinking about what actually goes into this system, what are the main sort of ingredients, the inputs?
Well, you've got the students themselves, obviously, their backgrounds, demographics, the government policies, regulations.
Community expectations, too, I guess. What parents and local areas want.
Absolutely. And of course, money. Financial investment is a huge input. All these things kind of set the conditions.
Okay, and the processes, the stuff that happens inside the system day to day.
That's your teaching methods, how schools are actually run, administration. Support services for students are part of it too.
Even things like after-school clubs, extracurriculars.
Yeah, definitely part of the process. And if you look at the outputs, the results, it's not only about grades or test scores, is it?
No, you'd hope not. It's about the graduates, right? What skills they have.
Exactly. What knowledge, what perspectives they leave with. Ideally, the system's output is, critical thinkers, engaged citizens, people ready for society.
So for anyone listening, just grasping that interconnectedness is really the main thing.
Yeah.
When you hear about, I don't know, changing how schools are funded.
You can start thinking, okay, how does that affect teacher pay?
Or classroom resources.
Or maybe even class sizes. And what does that do to the quality of education? It forces you to think systemically.
It brings up that idea of unintended consequences too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You might try to fix one part, aiming for improvement.
Like focusing just on test scores, maybe.
Right. But if you don't consider the knock-on effects, you could accidentally cause problems somewhere else in the system. Maybe stressing teachers out or narrowing the curriculum.
It's like debugging code sometimes. Fix one thing, break another.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually.
Yeah.
And the material we looked at really drives home this complexity, this network effect.
Yeah, it showed how even something that seems small or isolated,
When you look at it through that systemic lens,
you see how it connects to everything else.
precisely, to broader trends, underlying structures, nothing really exists in a vacuum in education.
Okay, so let's try and sort of summarize the main takeaway here as we wrap up.
Sure.
The big idea is the school system isn't just a label for a bunch of schools. It's a real functioning network.
A living system, yeah.
Yeah.
With all these interconnected, interacting parts.
And understanding those connections, that's really vital if you want to get your head around, well, the reality of education today.
Definitely. It helps make sense of the challenges, the debates, the potential solutions. It gives you a more informed viewpoint.
Right. So on that note, maybe a final thought for everyone listening to mull over.
Okay.
Thinking about this whole interconnected web. If you could make just one adjustment, one single change somewhere in that school system.
Knowing it would ripple outwards.
Yeah, knowing it connects to everything else.
Yeah.
What single change do you think would create the biggest positive impact across the board? What's the real linchpin?
That's a great question to leave people with.
Something to think about. Anyway, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.